Good afternoon. Oh, Damon, you're on mute.
Hey everybody, just saying hello. Brian, good to
Hello.
see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Hey Neely. Hey Max.
Hi.
How you doing?
Thank y'all for joining in.
Yeah, of course.
And hey Elizabeth.
Hey.
I'm sure Kate will be joining us momentarily.
Okay.
We're still 1 minute early.
Yes.
And for everyone's knowledge, we are live on social media at the moment and on the city's website.
Thank you.
So we'll just wait a few minutes before we get fully started on this subcommittee meeting, and then we'll get started.
Typically what I do is lurk in the background and I'll turn my camera off, but if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hey folks,
Hi,
Hey Kate, how are you?
Hi.
how you doing?
So we are now live and on the city's social media.
Oh
So I
boy.
just wanted to mention that. Okay, since you just got here. Of course, this is the Education Committee's subcommittee meeting. And our purpose today is to look at our goals and objectives, what we potentially were not able to accomplish this past unusual year, and where we're going in the future. So Kate, you had something you want to add?
Sure. I just sent everybody another copy. I've sent this before, I believe, the goal setting sheet. So I can put it, is there a chat feature in there? There is. I'm gonna put it in the chat. So feel free to play along with this as we're going through. So we're gonna be adding to this as we go along. Just our collective goals for the Education Committee. And yeah, we can go from there. Michael's here too, perfect. Okay, so I know, well, just to start, I talked with Damon about this when we got together to meet with Terry just to talk about chair stuff. But an idea I had for this coming year, particularly for the rest of 2020, is introducing this idea of I'm a science teacher, so I look for science connections whenever I can. The International Space Station does these programs called downlinks, where folks can talk with astronauts on the International Space Station, and it's usually tied to other events that are going on. So one thought I had was to propose a NASA downlink, which would mean that we would put together a proposal for NASA to look through. But my thinking is that with this downlink, so it's like a 20-minute talk with astronauts, but we could also include our sister cities in on this too. So we could have schools in Besançon and Poggio and Winneba all sort of contribute questions for these NASA astronauts. And the cool thing about it is that it's international. We don't have to go anywhere, but we're also forming these partnerships with these other schools. I spoke with Matt Shields at Charlottesville High School, who took he took his kids every other year to Besançon on their way to CERN with his Bacon Club, his STEM club, which is really cool. And so I chatted with him a little bit about this concept, and he's totally down with doing something like this, sort of doing like a city schools, sister cities collab, but also partnering with the Virginia Film Fest. So having this be an event where we're showing a movie either about international relations, cross-cultural stuff, or if we're lucky, something that's like space related. But with this, we could host this event as the Sister Cities Commission, have it have an educational focus with STEM, and include video clips from our sister cities. to sort of have a question from each sister city. And those sister cities can also stream live. It's usually a morning time event, but having something like that. So what do you guys think?
Shall I speak up? I'll speak up.
Yeah.
So obviously this is my first education subcommittee meeting. But what I really like is and what I'm assuming or thinking that we would be brainstorming about as a subcommittee at this particular point in time is what kinds of things we can do virtually. So that, because we know there aren't going to be any in-person exchanges for the remainder of 2020 and perhaps not even into 2021, depending on the state of the pandemic. And I love the idea of getting creative and figuring out how to do virtual exchanges or activities that could involve the actual students in the actual sister cities themselves. What I like about the idea of virtual exchanges, and this was mentioned, I think, during our retreat, is that it can actually include so many more people than might otherwise actually be able to participate if it's an actual physical exchange. So I think anything that we can do that, would get, would kind of create points of contact with students in any or all of our sister cities is a great starting place.
Totally.
I'll mute.
I appreciate that you're trying to find curricular connections for the exchanges. I think in setting goals, if that's our goal for today, is to set our subcommittee goals. Just as a curriculum and instruction person, I love exchanges. I love what you were saying, Elizabeth, about that virtual allows for people to participate in exchanges that may not have been able to before. So it's actually kind of exciting in some ways. I need to think about, I guess if we're setting goals, for me, like I have to think big picture about like the tie-in to different curricula. And I'm a coordinator of social studies and world languages for the city schools. So I'm thinking like curriculum connections to social studies, curriculum connections to world languages. But like, I love what you brought up about STEM, Kate, and science. So I think I would want to remain flexible and open to maybe not determine all of them today, but like remain flexible and maybe figure out a process for figuring out how to get some good virtual exchanges that make sense in the curriculum.
Absolutely.
In different areas.
Absolutely. So as we think about, I guess, the year ahead and any virtual connections that we can make, do you guys have any thoughts for us to setting up these virtual connections?
Well, I know with Besançon, there are already good contacts, right, that have been made over years. So that, Matt knows and stays in contact with teachers at the Lycée Louis Pasteur, which is the high school that we typically do physical exchanges with, CHS. And so, the nice thing about Besançon is that we can go ahead and run ideas through the connections that have already been made. And Neely, you may know more about this, but my understanding is that the teachers at Monticello High School also have made connections, I think with a different high school in Besançon, and there are exchanges that happen there. So in terms of, our French sister city, we're lucky that there are already people on the ground on both ends, both sides, here in Charlottesville and over there, teachers that we can, reach out to, and that there are already, networks and connections that have been made. And if we can get our teachers in Charlottesville on board, they can really do a bunch of the legwork for us. My understanding is that, it would take more work to do that for Poggio, because there is not at this point an existing school-to-school exchange program happening there. But I know that Terry mentioned that she may have some ideas, and also I'm assuming Stella may also, be able to put us in touch with teachers there in Poggio who would be very keen to partner and have their students be involved in a project like this as well.
What about, I'm very interested in a social studies perspective, like with some connections with Winneba. Do we have some established, do we have a Winneba rep on this? No, I guess we're our own subcommittee, so we don't necessarily have somebody, but do we have connections established with any schools there?
I'm not sure. That might be a good question. I don't know if Nana is going to join us today, but Dave would know for sure. I think he's going to the grants meeting. Is that right, Damon? Oh, you're on mute.
I think so.
Yeah. So that could be a good question for Dave to think about what educational connections we have there. He probably knows.
He was here a little while ago, but I guess
Really?
briefly he was here, and I thought I saw him drop in and then go away, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe
Okay.
it was someone else.
Okay. So, so
But
maybe
he would definitely know, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure. So he'd be a good person to ask about those. And he was just there too. He was there, I want to say, during our retreat. He was actually in Winneba and couldn't go to our retreat because he was physically in Winneba, which is cool. So he probably knows. So we can talk to Dave at some point. Maybe he'll pop back in here within the next hour or so, and we can ask him about those educational connections. Cool. So, all right.
So basically, we have the seed of a project, that you've proposed that could become one of our, kind of one of our concrete goals for the coming year, is to get
Yeah.
that off the ground. Maybe that ends up being a one-off, I don't know, or perhaps it becomes the beginning of an ongoing exchange. And Neely, it may start primarily with science, with the STEM kids, because, that's Lycée Pasteur is the STEM school, as you probably know, in Besançon. And, but there isn't any reason why that, could not be expanded. And in fact, I had a conversation with Stacy Evans, who was one of our grant recipients last year. I met with her a couple weeks ago just to get up to speed on that whole experience that she had. And she made connections with art teachers, and she got Jennifer, Jennifer Mildonian, I think, who's the head of the art program at CHS, kind of involved in that. So I don't see why, there couldn't be plenty of room for growing and expanding, on the curricular level.
Yeah, I think from like an equity perspective in schools, I want to, maybe one of our goals, I don't know how, but like if there's a way we can identify some kind of process or come up with a process by which we get some opportunities out to more students. I guess I'm thinking like, especially students who have historically been underrepresented in these experiences, maybe we can set that as our goal. I think with STEM, we have more diversity in our engineering program in STEM than we used to, which is good. But I want to make sure that we continue to think about every student and their access to these opportunities. So maybe we could, I don't know what that would look like, because it seems like a lot of our things are based on connections and stuff like that. How do we make that process more equitable?
It could be that instead of making this specific STEM project a goal, or a specific social studies project a goal, that we generally make a goal of host a series of virtual interactive events that connect to current curriculum standards or something like that. And we get to achieving that goal by hosting the STEM event or the social studies event, or so on.
I like that idea.
I do too.
It's broad, which is good because we can play around with it as
Yeah.
things come up. So I like that a lot. And I also, another thing to think about too, because the virtual thing is a huge component. One thing I think about, Neely, when we think about sort of equity within these events and making sure that we reach out to the folks who really need it. I'm working on a grant right now for another project with City of Promise, and they're an awesome organization. I wonder if we could get them involved too with something like this, because they're a local organization that works with a lot of low and middle income students in Charlottesville, and that could be a really cool way to maybe even like bounce some ideas off of that organization too, and think about how we can do these events. But also, the Festival of Cultures is a huge event that we sponsor as a Sister Cities, and that, as far as I know, is happening in May. I don't know. I think it's a little too far to figure out, but that's another event where we could also incorporate some sort of thing. I don't know what, but something where we can invite members of the community to come out and participate in some sort of educational experience tied to that event in particular, because a lot of folks come out for that, and it's really cool.
Yeah. So Damon,
Yes.
just so that I'm clear that I'm understanding what you're proposing, which actually sounds really great, is more that we think in terms of setting a goal for the subcommittee to kind of build the infrastructure here so that virtual exchanges can happen perhaps across a variety of subjects, or, as, and with as many students as possible.
Yeah.
So that the infrastructure for that program, which frankly could continue even when the world opens back up, right? And
Absolutely.
this is a great opportunity for us to do that.
Yeah.
We have no other options. We have no other, we can't really be focusing on actual physical exchanges. So it's the best time to take the energy and the time to build that kind of infrastructure.
Kate, can you remind us, is this for 2 or 3 years, these goals we're preparing? Isn't it for 2 or 3 years?
1, I believe. We do this every year.
Is it 1? Okay. All right.
The strategic plan is a 3-year plan.
Yeah. So
this might be at least 2. But anyway, yeah, I think we can have a couple of goals. One being something like host a series of virtual interactive events that connect to current curriculum, and then a second goal, and we can enunciate it however we want, but that specifically focuses on outreach to minority and underserved communities, both here and in our sister cities. I mean, I think often we think of just Charlottesville and just America having underserved communities, but I'm sure there are underserved communities in each of the partner cities that, aren't the ones that are coming on the exchange trips or being a part of, whatever activity or partnership that we're doing.
Totally. So that can totally, I think both of those kind of go hand in hand too.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
We can tie them into one goal, but I think they also could be separate goals. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I think making an effort on both those parts are good for 2020, is sort of thinking about increasing those virtual experiences, but also with the focus of making this something that that underserved groups can really be a part of and really take part in, and I don't know, make the most of this virtual time we have together. I love it.
I think maybe the sister city element, from the other countries might be a bit more of a challenge to assure, because I mean, we know that we probably have the ability to reach out to our local community that is underserved. I don't necessarily know if that's the case so much with our partner cities. Obviously, we have some different concerns and issues, but I have to believe they have underserved communities. So it might take a little bit of extra communication on the part of the committees that, dedicated to the cities. But I think we ought to try. I think that'd be a good idea.
Totally. All right. So, do we want to?
Well, did you want to just acknowledge the goals that had been set for 2020, you know,
Yeah.
by the subcommittee, and whether any of those ought to stay on the list, or whether those, you know, need to be, I don't know, you know, sort of revised, replaced, set aside? Do you have them handy? I have them in front of me if you want me to.
Let's see. I got them right here, and I can put them in the chat too, so everyone can take a peek. There we go. So these are last year's goals for all committees.
Looks like there were two primarily, right, for 2020 for the education committee?
Yep.
Committee.
We had a pitch night for CVL area student at Tom Tom Fest, or Festival of Cultures, where we encourage students to come up with an original idea to connect to or promote culture exchange, either face-to-face or virtual, with a sister city, award a small grant on the spot for the audience favorite. So that was our student rep last year who pitched that one. And it's certainly something, this idea of asking our community, asking our students to come up with a way to engage virtually, like sort of a contest, could be a really cool thing and help us think of some ideas too. So maybe that is something we would want to think about, as a sort of exchange contest of like thinking of ways that we can connect with our other sister cities on a virtual platform. That could be really fun. And then an essay contest, which I have all of the documents for the contest itself, but we need to check in with Sister Cities International too. I haven't done that yet with securing that. We'd also need to vote as a committee or as a commission on prize value if we are associating a monetary prize with this essay contest within our city.
Okay. So I had made a note, I think at the retreat, tell me if this is correct, that one was kind of set up and ready to go spring 2020, and then just got sidelined, of course, when the pandemic hit and the commission had to go, you know, offline, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, the first one just is still would be an outstanding goal. If we wanted to adopt it and kind of, you know, keep that as a goal for future. Is that right? That one really just had not gotten off the ground, but the second one was kind of ready to go.
Oh, for goals for 2020, yeah. So the pitch night just didn't come to fruition, but the essay contest is something that we can get out there. Like, I think it's something that if we are to do this, I'm looking at the Sister Cities International site right now to see if I can find anything, because Terry mentioned something about there being like an actual Sister Cities International essay contest, which would
That's
be
right.
We submit this to. So what we would need to do as a committee then is decide and vote on if there is a monetary prize for this. What would it be? Yeah. That is, and there is a Young Artists and Authors Showcase. Let's see here. That is out of one world, out of many, we are one. So check back with us to see information for 2021. So they already have the deadline passed for 2020. So this could be a goal for 2021
Right.
for sure. So that could be something that we carry over into next year, is, you know, early next year, whenever we get these dates, like confirming monetary prize value and working with that, getting local students involved and something like that.
I don't often have good participation with essay contests. That's the only thing especially right now with everything on teachers' plates.
Yeah.
As you know, Kate, it's kind of crazy right now.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing that I could possibly get anybody to commit
Yeah.
to doing that right now. Like on top of their curriculum and making it virtual and everything with pacing so slow. in the virtual environment. But I don't know. I mean, maybe you would have more participation in the county. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I mean,
here.
honestly, I'm not sure. Some of those things are right now thinking about it. I feel like it would like be dead on arrival, but like assuming like, I don't know, like I don't know what the state of things are going to be by the time they put up the dates for this again. So this could be something that we put on hold for the time being, and
that we revisit maybe second half of 2021.
yeah, or something like that. Or yeah, I hate to do that and then like not check the dates or anything and then pass the date again, because like right now we've already passed the 2020 date. So maybe it's something where we move that to one of the goals in 2021 of just like, let's revisit this again. I mean, there's no rules on like how many goals like specifically we have. If we want to add it on there and just be like, let's revisit this, or let's, as a committee, let's talk about this again.
Well, I just think we ought to be, if we can, be as realistic as we can about what we think we can really usher through, so that, you know, we can proudly say we set a goal and we achieved it, or we're almost achieved it, rather than we set a bunch of goals and then, you know, they're just sort of languishing there on the list. So I don't, you know, I just didn't know if there was a lot of investment, but amongst those of you who are, you know, are continuing on the commission in one or both of these goals set from last year. And if so, does that mean we need to honor them? Or if there's not an enormous amount of enthusiasm or investment, it's fine with me just to sort of park them and for us to determine if there's something we can get really excited and enthusiastic about and we think we have the energy to see through. You know, maybe that's the way for us to go this year.
You know, I see, I'm kind of circling back to the idea of an essay contest. And instead of making a specific goal that focuses on the essay contest, we could have a goal that is something like plan an educational event that would engage individual local students to enunciate their relationship between Charlottesville and the sister cities. By making it more broad like that, we could decide to do an essay contest. We could decide to do an art contest or not a contest. It could be, but I mean, the one thing that is unique about an essay contest is that it is an individual project as opposed to a larger program, like the effort to, you know, have these virtual interactive events that connect to this current curriculum, or the activities that focus on, you know, those who tend to connect less. I mean, I think we could, if we keep our goals a little more broad, I think there's a higher likelihood that, or it gives us more flexibility in what we want to do, because it could be a really fantastic opportunity comes up that we're not seeing right now that we can, you know, jump into that meets the goals that we're trying to achieve. That isn't necessarily, you know, an essay, or isn't necessarily the one connected to space, although I love that one. And or whatever. I mean, I just use that as an example.
Yeah, I think broad is good, and I think that what we can do right now is sort of consider like an idea of what we would want in the coming year, considering that we are virtual, and kind of put them up there for things to consider. And then, you know, come the start of next year, really think about how we can implement these things effectively, especially as we don't really have a clear idea of what this upcoming educational year is going to look like from January through June or whatever. So it might be good to have something broad up there so that we're not stuck in a corner with what we can do.
It strikes me also that it would be a good idea for us. I mean, of course we will, but to share whatever our goals are with the grants committee, so that if they if there is going to be a call for grants, they are aware to be on the lookout for grant proposals that might actually intersect with some of the kinds of things we're hoping to support and promote as the education subcommittee.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I think I definitely want to I like the idea of keeping the goals broad so that we can be open and flexible to some different things. I think, but what you said earlier, Elizabeth, about building up our infrastructure, I think at the same time, that's true. We kind of keep the goals broad, but we need to kind of build up our infrastructure so that we can purposefully, I know when I go, I'm a very big picture person, but when I go too big picture, then I don't narrow in on the things I need to do to like actually make these connections start to happen and tap in to different networks. So I'm wondering how we could take that big picture goal, but have some actionable items.
Is there a specific thing you want for this coming year? Like as you're envisioning this upcoming year, is there something like some sort of idea in your head of what you would want to see as far as like cultural exchanges, or like as far as like the languages or social state, like as far as that perspective goes, is there something you would want to see?
No, not necessarily, but I think what I want is, I mean, there's many things I would like to see, but no, I guess what I'm hoping for is to build that infrastructure of like tapping into different people and different networks of people that aren't just myself, and make sure that we are listening to what they might want to see. So like, I guess I'm wondering, like, could part of our goal be like, I don't know if this is crazy, but like putting together some focus groups of, you know, or like you said, City of Promise, some city teachers, some students, families, and that are not just, you know, of all different ethnicities and races, etc., but like some diverse groups, and really hear about what kind of experiences they might want to see. I don't know, something like that.
So making a focus group of sorts of Charlottesville, of different members of the Charlottesville community to, I mean, we could think about in that sense. We look at last year's, what was that? The first goal for 2020, where like this sort of pitch thing, like it doesn't have to be a contest of sorts, but it could be sort of like a pitch night where you're getting members of the community together, like students, teachers. Like it could be a special invitation thing where we like sort of like reach out to different groups and say, hey, we're really trying to promote these international partnerships that we have, and we think that, you know, we want to hear from the community. We want some input on how we can best serve the needs of our community members. So it could be something where we host a virtual event of some sort in the coming year to sort of get those ideas across, kind of like that pitch night type thing, but engaging with members of the community to see, what do you want out of this commission? What is going to benefit you the most from this group of people who are dedicated to promoting this cultural partnership, and do something like that. I think that's a very vague idea right now, but it's something that over the course of the next few months, we could think about, all right, what are things going to look like? Maybe when the weather gets nicer, we can do like a spread out outdoor event, so we're not in like a Zoom room for the 5 billionth time. But maybe something like that, some sort of thing.
And I think it could be really successful doing something like that if we tap into somebody who, like an organization like City of Promise, who already has a good network. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think that could be cool, because to me that creates more equity. Like you're hearing from different members of the community, and it's not just us deciding kind of what we think is best for the cultural exchanges.
I love that idea. So that's something we could think about, is like, how do we creating some sort of event or space or entity where we can share these, where we can sort of discuss ideas, pitch ideas for how we best serve the needs of our community members, and then I don't know, have it like learn.
So I've jotted down some draft. I know we now have just a little over 10 minutes. Our time is growing short, but I've drafted basically 3 draft goals, and here they are. that basically outline kind of, and they're more broad goals as opposed to specific. But I think everything that we've kind of talked about, all the specific elements that we've talked about probably fit into these. And feel free to take a moment to read them if you like. And you might not agree, and that's fine. Maybe that you want to adjust it or do something completely different. But I figured since, our primary purpose today is to kind of try to create some goals, I figured I'd try and take what we've talked about and put it out there.
Thank you so much. That's great.
Yeah, I think, let's see.
Do you have the capacity, Damon, to circulate those to us in the form of are we going to plug those into the worksheet?
We can do that. So what I'll do is I can copy and then
we can upload it to the drive so everybody can.
Yeah. Well, we have our goal sheet for today that folks have pulled up. We could do something where we just have 3 goals for the upcoming year instead of a 2020, 2021 type thing. Would that be better for you guys as we're thinking about the year ahead?
Well, this year is certainly growing short.
Right.
I know.
Well, and right. I mean, and I think of our year as starting I guess it is a calendar year. I think of it as starting when I rotated on the commission, but that's just because that's when I rotated on the commission. At this point, I think probably we have to call these 2021 goals.
Yeah. So I put these goals, and we can tweak them a little bit as we see fit in the goals for 2020, 2021.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's see. So host a series of virtual interactive events that connect to current school curricula. Love it. So that can be something that we think of over the coming weeks, months. Goal 2, host a virtual event that has a particular impact on those that are less.
Yes, feel free to edit.
Very good. That are less engaged or represented by the Charlottesville Sister Cities Commission programming. So as we're thinking about that, is that kind of linked to what we were just talking about with getting many community members on board, like some sort of, so virtual, I'm going to say virtual or
Sure.
Or other in-person if possible, event that has a particular impact on those that are less engaged or represented.
Probably those who are less engaged.
Those who are less engaged or represented by our programming. Cool. And then
I think it should be CSCC.
Charlottesville Sister Cities Commission.
I do that too. I really have to think about our letters.
Then goal 3, plan an educational event that would engage individual local students to enunciate their relationship or connection to Charlottesville and the sister cities. Love it. So
and again, that one had like the essay contest in mind, an art contest or show or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it could be an essay contest, art contest, sort of some pitch event. So like pitching ideas or otherwise. I love it. So these are nice because it gives us something to think about.
It does. It gives us a good thing to sort of document, a foundational document that we can work on and, refine or edit or return to. Thank you very much for doing that, Damon.
Yeah.
Sure thing.
How often will we get to meet, after this? I guess I'm wondering, how do we
That's a very good question.
accomplish the goals?
So, in the past, when we've done these, like the committees the committees will meet on like sort of an as needs basis. So like the Spanish speaking sister committee, we met like a few times, Joan, just to like, as we were getting that event together, like we kind of made meetings and they were public and people could come, sort of like this. So it could be something where, and this could be something that we think about as a commission, you know, maybe we don't have one meeting a year scheduled for these subcommittees. Maybe it's something that we do like every 3
Quarterly
months.
or something even.
Yeah, exactly.
The challenge we have right now during the current circumstances is we as the Charlottesville Sister City Commission are only given 3 hours total per month to meet. That includes our regular meeting as well as our committee meetings, and they all basically have to take place on the same time. Is that correct, Brian and Max?
Hello. Go ahead, Max.
So you guys actually have a 6-hour time span. You're allotted 3 hours for your commission meeting, your actual board meeting. And then you're allowed another 3 hours, granted that you get on the list with the communications department and they have room for you. So you would then be allowed 3 hours for a subcommittee meeting. And you can kind of divvy that time up however you like. So for your commission meeting, if you use the first hour for the commission meeting and potentially the second 2 for a subcommittee meeting, we can accommodate that.
Okay, so we can have like what you just described, but then we have an additional 3 hours that all of the subcommittees can use at on another day, but probably all continuously, right?
Like what we're doing today.
Yeah.
Right. And
Right,
so
that's
for that
correct.
subcommittee meeting, yeah, you will need to check with me because we're pretty much hosting up to 6 subcommittee meetings. Okay, so you got to get on a list. It's first come, first serve. And so that's how we'll handle that. So as soon as you know you want to conduct one, you should probably just check in with me.
So up to 6 subcommittee meetings for all of the different entities in
Right,
the
for
city?
all of the different, right.
Oh, so we need to plan in advance then,
Yes,
in order to beat out all the others.
correct.
And right now I do have you penciled in for November.
So that is our next regular meeting. So it
And I
could
have a
be
subcommittee meeting set aside as well
Oh, on what
for that
day?
same time period though, right?
for November.
On that same day.
Nope, different day.
What's
Oh,
I-
what day?
There is no date. It's just I gave you one of the 6
Oh, great.
slots.
Oh, great. Oh, thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
You're the best.
See? Well, thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. I
Yeah,
think Max asked me to do it.
thank you. Well, we'll take it if we need it, I guess.
Mhm. Well, I think we had originally discussed that before we knew that you guys were ready to get started so soon. So then we backtracked, we scheduled one for this month, and then we already had one in the makings for next month. Yep.
Well, cool. I like that idea though of maybe doing this quarterly, like regrouping as a subcommittee, just to sort of go through these so that, you know, it's easy to forget about these. If we like every meeting we have, every hour is dedicated to like everything else.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that at our next meeting in November, but thinking about scheduling out those subcommittee meetings. They don't have to be long, but they can just be sort of refocusing on these goals and how we can best meet them.
Can I ask a quick question that is, I'm sorry, did I just talk over somebody? Okay. I'm assuming we still do not have a student representative. Right, all right. So I had a good conversation with the director of the Alliance Française, and I asked for part of the conversation, she suggested that I reach out to the head of the French department at UVA, which I am happy to do if you wish me to introduce myself, but also to sort of beat the bushes and see if there might be an undergraduate or graduate student in their department who would have an interest in particular in joining the Sister City Commission. Now, it doesn't have to be a student who's studying French. It's just that was a good suggestion, I thought, in terms of actively finding and recruiting some kind of a student representative. And I think we could do the same thing, quite honestly, with, you know, any number of other departments at the university. But that's one that I can volunteer to do if the commission or if this committee or if you, Kate and Damon, would like me to.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it sounds fine. I know there are, you know, a number of other committees out there with different committee members who might be interested in the conversation about it. Of course, if you do talk to them, I would certainly not make it seem like it is automatic that they will serve in that role, considering the
Right.
last person who was nominated was not accepted by the city council.
No, it's just to generate some interest because I don't know how the position is, how we normally recruit or advertise. I mean, I'm assuming that, it's on the city website, of course, but I figure what I heard from Max when we asked at the retreat is, yeah, we're free to go out and recruit if people are not applying for the position. And particularly on the education subcommittee, I would think it would be really valuable to have our student
Sure. That
representative.
makes sense. Max, has that announcement been made yet?
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah, okay.
It went out the beginning of October, and so we'll advertise it through the beginning of December. And council will review applications on December 21st to make appointments. So
Okay.
yes, it is out there. And we have council make at least 2 announcements during their council meetings between the time that it's posted on the website and the time that they are actually due to make appointments to try to drum up some interest. But you are correct, Elizabeth. You guys are welcome to, put some feelers out yourselves and try to get some people
And
interested.
this is the time to do it since the posting went up October 1, right?
Yes, it was a few days into October, but yes. Yep.
Okay,
And the deadline to apply is December 11th.
thank you, Max.
Uh-huh.
And that's for the business and student rep, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll do my part and reach out, because I want to meet, but I'm also, happy to put feelers out elsewhere if anybody wants to and ask me to do that.
Sweet. Thank
Well,
you.
I think it is 4:45.
Yep.
We did it.
Woo!
Team, that was exciting. Sweet. Well, thank you. And now it is on to the Spanish speaking sister city.
All right.
I'm gonna mute
sign
mine
off.
and turn off my video, and I'll be back in 45 minutes.
Sounds good. Have fun.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, Elizabeth. Hey, guys. Welcome. How's it going? Hey, y'all. So, I guess we're here to talk about our Spanish-speaking sister city and move forward with that, hopefully.
Joan, you're muted.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. As far as meeting all of our last year goals, we met them and we finished with a letter of recommendation that was drafted to Terry, who decided that at that particular time, it was best not to submit a letter of recommendation given the COVID-19 situation. So that's where we stopped. But as far as any of the goals that we set, we made.
Yay.
So that was great.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Wow. So that sounds cool. As we think about what's to come, I think a big roadblock with this is the fact that council said no more money to the Sister Cities Commission, which makes it very hard for us to pursue another sister city.
Right.
Without funding, pursuing this is pretty hard. So I don't know if that's can be a goal of our subcommittee, but thinking about, the budget season starts, Max, is it like around now-ish that the budget season is kicking off or? Yes. So,
I'm talking away and my mic is off. So I said November. Sorry about that.
November, yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking maybe like part of our committee's sort of objective was to go forth with this recommendation, but we can't do that if we don't have money from the from city council to do this. So maybe Max, you recommended like drafting some sort of letter from the commission as a whole, but thinking about, this is one of our goals as a sister city
Mhm.
is to move forward with this and present it to city council and
The letter was drafted. Yeah.
Yeah, so going forward with this then, you know, requesting that funding so we can do this
Yeah.
and set up this exchange.
Yep. And you can just forward it to Keena, and, you know, if we have any questions or anything, you know, on our end that we need to ask you about, we will, and then we'll get it before council.
Nice.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second? Because I'm not sure I completely agree with the idea that we can't move forward without new funding. Obviously, it'd be great to have new funding. We should be pushing for that anyway. But, you know, if you remember, the reason why they froze our funding last year is because we were sitting on a pretty hefty balance of unspent funds, and most of that is still there. And so I could easily see council saying, well, why are you making this new sister city contingent on new funding when you still haven't spent tens of thousands of dollars, you know, from previous year's allocations. So I do think we should push for more funding this year and get it back into an annual appropriation, but I don't think we should necessarily hold this up because of that.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense too. I'm just curious, like, you know, and also with the state of the world right now, like, it's not like we'd be going to the sister city anyway. So like, there's no travel expenses. It's not like we're doing a normal courting process. So maybe this is us saying, like, let's move forward with this and let's present this to council as is, which, you know, I think is great. And we already have that letter drafted for council, supporting Weiwei and going forward with that as our recommendation moving forward. So that could be one of our goals this year, is to, you know, send this out to council and, you know, be there to be like, you know, we want this and the city wants this, and we're listening to our constituents and moving forward.
And as you said, you know, we can tell them that the onboarding process is going to look different than it might have otherwise, but
Yeah.
at least for the first part of the year, we'll focus on other ways we can lay the groundwork without necessarily having delegations going back and forth. But there's other things we can do in the meantime to get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. So I totally agree with you on that. So maybe our objective then is to get the ball rolling, to push this forward to council. And then if we were to push this to council, so like sometime in November, I would imagine, would they vote on it then and there? I think my understanding of this is a little not so, like, would it be something that they're like, yes, no, and then we go forward, or would it be?
Yeah, we'd have to check with Keena and get figure out when they might have an opening on their council agenda, because I know their agendas fill up pretty quickly and they're trying not to have 8 meetings anymore. So we'd have to find out, and it might be December, it might be November, who knows when they would have an opening. And it's really up to them to decide if that's, you know, if they want to go ahead and vote on it that night, or just sort of sit on it and think about it for a while, or do some, maybe they'll want to hold a public hearing of their own on it. I don't know. But I think we've done a lot of legwork on it. So the fact that we got as much public input as we did, we had presentations, we did our due diligence, we came to a conclusion amongst our group. So hopefully they'll see that this is more than a half-baked idea that we're bringing to them for consideration. And you know, and it's entirely possible they may just say, you know what, it's just too much for now, let's just put it off and take it up again in 2021. But at least I think we should get the ball rolling.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, but I think the committee has rolled it as far as
Exactly.
we can. I mean, it needed to be rolled by whoever was the head to the commission. So I don't know how, I think I rolled it already. So
Yeah. So do we want to make that like our first goal, is to get it out there, like maybe before the end of 2020? Like, let's put it on.
Everybody has a copy of the draft. That was sent a copy of the draft. Okay, so it needs to be edited. I was writing it without prior, experience from past sister city letters of recommendation to the council. So I'm not sure how to go more forward if I've already submitted a letter of recommendation to Terry. I'm not sure she was going to edit it. I don't know what would happen. I mean, I think COVID-19 just kind of stopped everybody in their tracks,
Yeah.
but I don't think much was done with it.
Okay. So I don't have it in front of me right now. Joan, if you don't mind resending that
Sure.
to us, that'd be awesome. I had to talk with Terry about it, but what we can do then is maybe we make a goal then over the next, like, to sort of go through this document and edit it and make any changes as we see fit, but have it council ready in the next few weeks. So like we can have it good to go and present it and yeah, be ready to rock. So I think that sounds awesome. And then honestly, it's hard to make other goals if we don't know the outcome of this decision. But
Yeah, the other big unknown, not to interrupt you, Kate, but the other big unknown is whether or not the group that was pushing the sister city in Argentina is going to try to lobby council for their, their nominee.
do you think they would?
I don't know. They were pretty, I don't want to say adamant, but they were very supportive of their own cause, and I can't blame them. But
Yeah, I mean, that's something to certainly consider. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but and would it be something where when we present this to council, we also have Jordan there from the from
Ishatan.
Yeah, from the Ishatan group.
Yep.
She did a fabulous job of stating
She
their
did.
case. So I think if council heard from her as well and their group, I think that would be a really great way to do that. Granted, it's been a couple of months since she's done that presentation, but I'm sure she'd be happy to know that we are pushing forward with this for sure. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Like, it's kind of hard to make future goals when we're not sure of the outcome of this one. One thing we were talking about before in the education committee was proposing the idea of having some subcommittees meet more than once a year. So like having like a set date each like quarter or something where like the subcommittees can come back together and sort of regroup and look at the goals. What do you guys think of this idea of making this our goal right now and understanding that, we can't go further with any other plans until we know that council is down with this, like, and ready to move forward or not with our proposal.
Okay, I just sent you and Dave, and I can send anyone else a copy of the draft.
Thank you, Joan. Let's see. Nice. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So I wonder, wow, this is in depth. This is great.
Okay. I don't think it was edited, but I don't think it would take much.
I don't think so either. So I wonder if we can go through this. I don't know. I'm happy to look through it over the, remainder of this week, and maybe we all can take some time over the next few days to just sort of read through this document and add anything or edit anything that we see fit. And then.
Yeah, I mean, it was done before I knew that there wasn't going to be any enthusiasm for the project to go forward. So that would need to be edited, to make it say that in spite of everything, we still want to proceed.
Yeah. So I think that sounds nice. I think that, this idea that, in a virtual world, we can kind of make these exchanges happen, like and be a little more cost effective about it, since we're not able to travel anyway. We can kind of get this process started. And
Yeah.
think about making this
Oh.
culture exchange happen. I love it.
So Kate, the way I can help here is I'll get you like a timeline. Okay. So I'll find out exactly when we need it by, how soon we'll be able to get it on the agenda. And quite honestly, I'm not sure if it's just as simple as like 2 readings, or if it just goes on the consent agenda, or if it needs to wait until closer to us finalizing, if you will, the budget. So I don't know the answer to that either way. I'll have to check with Keena, but I'll get back with you as far as how that'll all roll out.
Max.
I think one thing, and I'll look at the document too, but one thing we should note in there is that even though we're looking to a sister city, we don't anticipate it's going to cost the city any more money. I think,
That would need to be highlighted, yeah.
yeah, they're in a very tight budget environment right now, and they're not going to be looking to take on something that's going to add to the budget. So, but given, so.
Cool. All right. So I like that. I like that point. I think it's important to make too, as they're considering this. So want to say we'll wait. So Max, you're going to get back to us with those dates?
Yes. Yes. I'll try to get you some information as soon as tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then between maybe now and Friday, like the 3 of us on this committee can read through this document and make it look.
Yeah, I mean, any insight's great, or hindsight, and definitely needs to, it was written before any closures.
Yeah.
That's different.
Does it, Joan, I haven't looked at it yet. Does it reflect the fact that the commission voted, or at least the commission at the time, obviously it's changed a little bit in composition, but the commission voted, I think it was unanimous, wasn't it? Or
Yeah, well, it wasn't unanimous, but pretty much so. I mean, I preferred Argentina, but that didn't mean that I wasn't going to support Guatemala 100%. But yeah, I think we had all of the survey, we had all of Brian's work, that
right.
incredible help. So it's well documented by evidence on the need, I think.
Great.
A lot of good data in there. So thank you for putting it together.
I don't even, I'd have to reread it. It was March. So much has happened. Oh my gosh.
It's been a lot since then.
Yeah.
So yeah. Cool. So how about this? We make that one goal for now is to get this out there before the end of the year.
Okay, right over it, and we'll yeah.
And then we'll meet back up like next quarter, like hopefully by then we have the determination of what we're doing at that point, and that'll help us direct moving forward with,
That sounds great.
Yeah, if it's a bust, then maybe we should like reconsider some things. And then if it's, yeah, let's do this, then yeah, let's do this and make some connections and do some fun stuff.
So kind of waiting, Max is going to get us a timeline, and then we're going to just kind of table this for right now for next quarter, like next quarter, meaning after January.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but like maybe by the end of this week, hopefully have a chance to each of us read through this and edit everything. And then we can like do an email confirmation or something between the 3 of us on Friday if we're all good with what it looks like, and then send it on to Keena and Max saying, hey, this is what we want to share. We can contact Jordan again too, to see if she would like to present her stuff too. Probably get her ready for it because it's been a while since she's talked about it. And then we can go back and see if council is ready to hear us.
Okay.
And they may, it's totally on them. They may or may not invite us to give a presentation. They may just take it up, from the written report. But even if they do that, I think it would be good for at least Jordan and maybe a couple of others to speak during public comment period in support of. But we won't know until they've had a chance to look at the memo if they're going to actually schedule a presentation versus just a council discussion. So.
Gotcha. Should we wait on telling Jordan then, or should we let her know now just so she can prepare?
I think we could, just tip her off that we're forwarding this to council, by next week, and just to get it on her radar, back on her radar screen. so
Yeah.
There's finally some movement.
Yeah.
That we discussed how wonderful her presentation was, it truly was,
Right.
was.
so, yeah, we could let her know.
Yep.
Love it. Well, cool. I like this. It's very straightforward, but
Okay, 'cause we did a lot of work, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like,
a lot.
not, I wish more people had shown up, but I thought it was that beginning that needed to happen, so anyway.
Well, fingers crossed. But let's all touch base on Friday, maybe virtually or through emails, and then we can regroup and get this out there.
Okay.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
Dave, how was Winneba?
Oh, I had a lot of time. I had a wonderful time. I'm sorry I missed the retreat though, but
Oh, it's fine.
yeah, Winneba is everybody there sends their love. So it was just nice to be in a country where, I mean, not to get political, but it's nice to be in a country where they just took a much more intelligent approach than we did to how to contain the virus, and just did everything that we should have done from the beginning. And so, when I was there, they marked their 300th COVID death, which is sad. It's terrible that 300 people died, but it's a nation of 30 million people. And the fact that they only lost 300 people to this virus because they did all the things that we should have done, and so it's nice to be in a country that did it right,
Absolutely.
but it was also just good to see old friends and just, check up on some of the projects we've been working on over there. And we delivered a huge amount of medical supplies from the UVA Medical Center to the clinics and hospitals over there, and
That's awesome.
gear from the Charlottesville Fire Department and police gear from the Charlottesville Police Department. And it was all very well received and very much appreciated. So I'm glad I went.
So
Yeah,
cool.
great.
Awesome. Oh, well, that's awesome. Just so awesome. I'm jealous that you can journey onto faraway lands like that and make those
Yeah.
connections. But that is so cool. So just so awesome. Well, sweet. All right. I will. Yeah, I'm gonna hang out here until I don't know what's next.
Okay.
But I can hang out here and wait until real human faces appear back into their screens. But it was nice seeing you guys.
Good to see you too. Thanks for all your work.
I
Oh.
know, Kate, thank you for taking this over. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, wow. That was very kind, and I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you. It's been
Yeah.
great having all this cool support, and I hope you guys are having a nice fall and a nice start to
Thanks, you too.
this time.
So far, it's good.
All right.
Take care,
Have a great
everybody.
night, guys.
All
Talk to
right, take care. Bye.
Bye. It's just me. So I'm gonna hang out here. How you doing, Max?
I'm doing all right. So do you think it would be worth putting your, I guess, like your interim goal of getting the allocation before council on your board sheet?
Oh,
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Let's see. We are the Spanish-speaking sister city. So I'm just gonna make a 2020 goal to finish editing proposal, city council proposal for Huele, Chenango, Chenango, Guatemala, as recommended, sister city for Charlottesville. Okay. 2021 goals to be determined after council meeting. So, finish editing city council proposals for Women Tango. Yeah.
Okay.
And then reach out to Jordan. Let's see, Ishtatan, something, something. Peace. And Foundation, is that it? Ishtatan Foundation. Cool. All right, that sounds nice. So our goal then is by Friday to have Dave, Joan, and I read through that draft
Mhm.
and finalize it, and then we can send it to you and
Okay.
Gina.
Yep.
And then y'all can throw. Is there any sort of formatting that you guys need? If it's a letter to City Council, like, do we need to have any verbiage on there?
You know, I know what it looks like when it's internal, but I'm not certain. So that, you know, I'll check on that too.
All right, I'll make it look really professional, and you guys can
Okay.
just make changes as you see fit. But yes, cool. That sounds exciting.
Mhm.
Sweet.
And I think grants is up next, right?
Maybe. Actually,
Yes.
is it grants? All right,
Uh-huh.
then outreach communication is after that.
Yes.
All right. I don't
Mhm.
know why Dave left then. He's on the grants committee, but that's okay. He'll come back if he needs to. Sweet. Let's see here. I need to. I guess we have 5 minutes. Oh, I see Amanda is in. That's funny. Amanda's in there right now, making goals for the grants committee. Maybe she's a one-person meeting.
No.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah, Amanda. Wait. Oh, oops. You know what happened?
Mm-hmm.
I put the education committee's goals. Was there supposed to be a meeting that starts now, or is it 5:30?
Let me check.
Adrian's here, and I think it was 5:30 or 5:35.
Yeah, so according to the agenda that I published, it's 5:35. I think you and Damon maybe had given a 5:30 time frame, flat 5:30 time start.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. I can't find the schedule anywhere, but thank you guys.
Kate, do you have a moment?
Sure.
It's Adrian, and I was really trying to get in at the 4 o'clock. Oh yeah, I can do my video too. I had crazy trouble with the Zoom, and I think it might be because I haven't done a few updates on my computer in a while. But I
Okay.
worked it out.
Oh.
I planned to be there at 4 because I got the sense that maybe everyone was going to be there at 4 for 5 minutes just to get an overview.
Oh. Yeah, no, you didn't miss anything too critical. We just met as an education committee to talk about just some ideas for the upcoming year, but nothing critical. We updated the goals page and just talked for a bit about different ideas that folks had, but that is totally fine. We talked about how some of these subcommittees, it might be a good idea to do like a quarterly meeting instead of just once a year, so we can kind of, hit some of these goals and really, I don't know, make the most out of them. So
That makes sense.
yeah.
I noticed on the Google Doc 2020 goals. So is that seeing if the former goals were met or something, or versus 2021? There's like two spaces.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can make with that what you will. So I think it's mostly based on as a committee, think about, the year ahead, like between now and whenever we meet again for our retreat. So if there is something in the next, 2 months that, your committee feels like they can take on, like the Spanish speaking sisters committee, we want to get our proposal to city council to recommend the Spanish speaking sister city that we've decided upon forward. So that's like a 2020 goal. But for the education committee, we were more like, let's just have these more broad general goals for the next year. So it's really make with them what you will, and then do what fits for your group. Well, and you can be flexible.
Does it fit to look at what the goals were, the most recent ones, to see, if they were met, or if we want to pick them up again, or things like that?
Absolutely. So I think a good way to start is to look at last year's goals and get a sense of, where are we now? And then think about moving forward. So like what goals might be able to carry forward, what might we need to change because of the pandemic and stuff like that. So yeah, our group, Elizabeth brought up, just bringing up the past goals and thinking about how we can change them up a bit, or if we just need to totally drop some of the goals from last year if they just weren't going to make sense for this stretch ahead.
In my case, I don't think I understand half of them because I don't know, and I'm thinking not so much about grants, because Amanda will be there and she'll be the main point person, I'm thinking, but on the communications and outreach, the old goals list things that I don't know about, and it's me, Stella, and Michael. Will he know what the Peace Pole project is, if that?
I'm not sure if Terry brought that up with folks at the retreat. The Peace Pole project was something that was talked about before my time with the commission even. So that's more of like you can think of it as like a commissioned art piece. So thinking about a peace pole, like a 4-sided pole basically with like each of the different sister cities on it, like coming up with, or even like doing an artist request for a peace pole idea to put somewhere, and like thinking about, some sort of representation of the sister cities of Charlottesville, either downtown, like just sort of pursuing that project on a outreach, like just sort of like a way to sort of spread the word about our commission. I don't think there was anything specific with this other than just the idea.
So it hasn't taken any steps.
No, a home for the mural artwork. I have the artwork in my folder. It was from a few years ago. It was an artist who's a UVA student about the sister cities. So I can send that to you guys to take a look at. And if you wish to pursue requesting a mural of that, this was a piece of art that was designed for the Tom Tom Festival. It was like a bus design, something that they do every year with just having artists design buses, local buses for the cat transportation. This one did not win, but represented the sister cities. So you guys might want to think about a commissioned mural with this or something. So something to think about, basically. I don't know if it's an actual piece anywhere or if it's just digital. I'm not actually sure about that. Look at promo collateral and see if we can improve. So just promotional stuff.
Are there like, can you just tell me what those include basically? Like, is it Facebook account and Instagram? Are those the two main things we're talking about? Or is there actual paper collateral or?
If there is, it would be in our shared document, in our shared drive. I haven't seen anything. I think that events where we have put out material, I think would be like the Festival of Cultures, which is in May. That's something where we pass out materials. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, although certainly if we have events, like we had the Spanish speaking sisters public forum this past winter. We didn't have any like sister cities informational material. I don't think we'd had more informational material about the Spanish speaking sister city candidates. I can look. I don't think we have like a brochure or anything about our commission. Could be something for y'all to think about, though, is some sort of like PDF or like foldable document that we could give to people as sort of like, this is our commission and this is what we do. But we do have social media platforms. We have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as our main things. More work on website. That I think is Michael's thing now. And then sponsor another festival event, maybe Festival of the Book. Certainly something to consider. There's also the Festival of Cultures, which is one that we already sponsor. As far as I know, we're still going to continue doing that, assuming that they have the Festival of Cultures this May. So hopefully that takes place. But you can certainly think about other events that you guys might want to sponsor as the grants committee.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Damon.
Hello.
Hi, Damon.
Hi, how are you, Adrienne?
Good. I'm relieved. I was having major Zoom issues before, and
No,
so I'm grateful that
not Zoom issues.
my subcommittee isn't due to meet till shortly, so that worked out well for me.
Okay, well, good. Good to find them out earlier.
Yeah. The Spanish speaking sister committee decided just have one goal for now, which is propose it to city council. Because
well,
we can't make any other goals until we find out the outcome of that. So
fair enough. You can always reconvene and determine additional goals.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah.
Or you can be 100% successful with your one goal.
Exactly. Well, I think, this is something we can bring up in November is, do we want to do a quarterly meeting with our subcommittees? And I think most people would be down for that because it's kind of hard to do this if we only meet as a giant group each month. So yeah, fun stuff.
So let's see, on the grants committee, we have Adrienne and me and Dave and
Amanda too.
Amanda, right?
And Amanda's the one who's been on it for some time. Is that right?
She's been I think she's been doing grants since we started. So
Okay.
yeah, she's the grants person.
Grants.
Yay.
Yeah. So
I love that we have a person. That is good.
yeah, so she should know what's up with that.
Yeah, because that is not so pandemic sensitive in a way. grant idea might have to be changed because of the pandemic, but applications and submissions and announcements, all of that can still go on, right?
Totally. Yeah. So, yeah, I think a challenge is going to be thinking about carrying forward, like, you know, the grants that weren't able to be fulfilled this past year because of the pandemic, and like how to
Right.
move forward with those grants. Can they still happen? Is it still feasible? And like opening up the next window of grants for the year ahead, not knowing what travel might look like. So that could be an issue, but I'm sure you guys will figure it out.
We'll see.
I know.
We'll do our best.
Sweet. All right. Well, I am currently in Greene County, so I'm gonna wrap up here and then head back to Charlottesville. But I hope you guys have a most excellent grants meeting and outreach and communications meeting. I hope it's real cool. And we will all meet again in November.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kate.
Okay, thanks, Kate.
Have so much fun.
See you later.
Bye.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Damon. How are you? Hi, Adrian.
Good.
Hi,
How are you
Amanda.
doing?
And Max, hello. I'm doing okay, thanks. How are you?
Great.
Hi.
Doing well, and thankful that you are our leader. So thumbs up.
Great. Well, thank you for being part of the grant subcommittee, and thanks for your leadership too, stepping up as co-chair.
No problem.
Great. Well, I'm trying to see who else we may be expecting.
I think Dave ought to be here pretty soon. Isn't
And
Dave on our committee?
We proposed that Dave be on our committee because he was on the grants committee this past year, but I'm not sure if that was confirmed. The other possible committee member is Elizabeth. I think she had indicated as a maybe in the retreat.
Okay. Well, they have been here once already today.
Oh, okay.
So maybe they'll come back, hopefully.
Okay. Well, I think we are set to start at 5:35. Is that right? So
5:30,
Give up-
5:35, whatever.
how have the other sessions been going?
Well, I was on the education committee session, and we were able to set up some draft goals that I think are still on the chat if you're interested in looking at them. But yeah, we had a pretty productive 45 minutes.
Great.
I didn't sit in the last the last subcommittee meeting. Adrian, were you a part of it?
No, I'm just joining now. I kind of sat in only accidentally because I was trying to figure out the Zoom stuff. I was able to hear the meeting, but I couldn't get my audio to work. And anyway, thankfully it's all resolved.
I think they did establish one goal, and that was proposing the Huawei as the sister city. And to see where it goes from there, because they felt without knowing how that would be received, they couldn't well establish additional goals.
Mm-hmm.
Is
So
this a
that's-
Spanish speaking one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it sounded for a minute like it was that Chinese town where the virus began. I thought,
Oh.
no. I'm confusing it with Huawei or something.
Yeah.
Wuhan.
Wuhan, China. Wei
Wouldn't that be a
Guatemala.
faux pas? We would like to propose that Wuhan be our next sister city. Never mind.
I'm sure everybody knows, but I figure I would just mention that we are now live and live streaming. Just,
Oh,
Okay.
just
thank
for
you.
everyone's information. You don't want to forget that.
Thank you for that.
Sure. But yeah, well, maybe a few more people will join us here in a minute. Anything interesting going on for you all? Any Halloween plans or anything like that?
No, I don't know what's going to happen in our neighborhood. I assume kids won't be going around.
I bet it'll be a mixed bag. literally.
Yeah. Good pun. Yeah. I think it's hard to predict exactly what will happen. It's a Saturday night too, so normally that would probably bring more people out.
Yeah, and it's a full moon, so you know, you never know what will happen on a full moon.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of ideas, you know, in the papers and going around online about substitute things that you can do. And I'm curious, I haven't heard anything that the city is promoting, but that's sort of the point. You can't really promote something where people gather. But they're saying that, I guess the ideas are things you can do in your home, and I'm not remembering what any of them are, but creative people come up with substitutes.
Oh yes. Is Max, are you there?
I am.
Hi. As a subcommittee, do we need to have a quorum as well, or how does that work?
So the people, I need to check and see who was officially placed on this subcommittee. Bear with me just a second, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have the names that came out to me in the email.
Do you have that open?
Yes, I copied it into a document of notes. So it was Amanda, Damon, Adrian, and Dave.
Okay, so not Elizabeth. Okay, so we're missing Dave.
Okay, all right. Well, that's probably a quorum then.
That was that was October 16th email. So.
Okay. Thank you, Adrian.
Well, it's now 5:35 if you
We can
want
rock.
to begin.
Max, does that seem okay from a quorum perspective?
Yes, I believe so. And
Okay.
Dave, I don't believe Dave was officially appointed. It would suggest it like one of you stated earlier. So I think you guys are good to go.
Okay, so are we the 3 committee member or subcommittee members?
Yes.
Nobody else? Okay. Okay. All right, I guess we have quorum.
Great. Well, welcome to the Sister Cities Grants Committee, and thank you very much for being part of this. So perhaps we could start by reviewing the 2019-2020 goals for grants, just to kind of reflect on what we set as goals for this past year and how we've done, and look at whether we want to adapt or extend any of those goals into the next year. I should be able to share my screen. One moment, and let me see if I can project the document with last year's goals so we can all refer to those together. One moment.
I have it, Amanda. I don't know about you, Damon, but I have it.
I actually also have my goals open.
Oh, great. Okay.
But either way, feel free to put in there, whatever, you know,
Okay.
could
Are you
be
seeing-
members of the public might like to see them.
Do you see them on the screen? Okay.
Yes.
Great. So, so in the past year, we set the goal of preparing the annual grant cycle, kind of basic operation for the grants committee for the fall grant cycle. This was completed in December, and we awarded about 10,500 in grants, with 4,000 pending at the time that COVID hit. So there was still some final decision makings around one of the grant applications involving a study visit for Charlottesville High School. We basically completed that cycle as laid out here with the call for applications, review of applications, and final decision making took place in December, I think was the final or January meeting. Then the second goal was around grant review, assistance, and oversight, which is sort of the extension of the process to make the final funding decisions, communicate back to the grantees, that were selected, and those who did not receive a grant in this past cycle. And then with the expectation, the grants committee would stay in contact and periodically check in with the recipient and also receive progress reports from them on the execution of their activities. So I would say that most of that has been completed. There is some outstanding follow-up that we discussed at the retreat that I am responsible for. I had agreed that I would do that follow up with the recipients to understand where they are, and I'll report back to the commission on the findings from that. We had agreed in the retreat to expand or extend the deadline or availability of funding into next year, subject to confirmation that still made sense and there was no plan to sort of change their project plan. And finally, the third area, which isn't spelled out here in detail, was to develop a scholarship award process, which the grants committee began doing earlier this year. And this was really designed to look at whether we could create scholarships for grantee, use grants money to support scholarships for travel for lower income recipients or visitors coming or traveling outside for sister cities trips. So this was something that the grants committee began to evaluate. We began developing a set of principles and considerations for what a grant scholarship for travel could look like. And that was partially developed and intended to be presented, I think, back in April. And as you know, everything was put on hold with the onset of COVID. So that is still pending and probably a piece of work that this committee will want to pick up as a potential ongoing priority, since it's unfinished work.
Amanda?
Yeah.
Did I hear you mention that was specifically for students and youth, or is it for everybody?
So it could be for anyone. Let me just pull up kind of what we were looking at there. The eligibility were adults and students participating outside of an organized school trip that meet merit-based criteria and demonstration of need. And we talked a lot about what might be the criteria for demonstrating need. So this is sort of outside of an organized school trip, but to allow others in the community who might be going on visits to sister cities who do not have the means to apply for some travel scholarship funding to support their participation.
Okay, thank you. I just I thought it was for both, but I just wanted to make sure.
Great. So those were the three original goals for the past cycle that I'll just stop sharing here for a moment so we can consider together whether we'd want to carry any of those goals forward. I think we are in an unusual time. I see that this template for goal setting is divided as 2020 and 2021. So I take it we're looking, Damon, maybe you can clarify this, but looking at sort of a short-term goal in terms of what we can achieve by the end of this year, given the context of COVID, and then what we might want to set as goals for next year.
Yeah, I agree with the education committee. We basically decided to set 2021 goals.
Okay.
Since 2020 is virtually over, and we're almost in November now, we just basically looked towards that. Now, that's obviously not to say that we can't do things that prepare us for that year, and maybe we do want to do things in 2020. But at least the education committee decided to focus on 2021 as opposed to 2020 and 2021. I don't know. if that is a problem for our particular committee. I mean, we are different. We have a different purpose.
Yeah, I think it's something we can, I think we'd want to discuss together in light of the typical annual grant cycle kicks off in November with a call for applications and decision making, kind of final submissions in December with decisions made by January for grants. So if we were to, we would have to consider whether that seems feasible in this time to launch the regular grant cycle. The grant applications might look quite different, which maybe would be I think that we would want to be open to different types of exchanges, as we discussed in our retreat too, that maybe don't involve travel necessarily, but other forms of cross-cultural connection and learning and sharing. So there, I think, could be opportunity. They might be smaller scale in terms of cost, but something we could consider. The travel scholarship option, issue remains a question mark, and at some point travel will reopen, and that may become a possibility again too. Later in the year, it's hard to predict, but we might want to prepare for that.
Sure. And, I am new on the committee, and I believe Adrian, are you also new? So I am totally, I lean on you towards your guidance on these things. So what generally, can you remind us of the period that the grants traditionally can be implemented if we were to go with the, what we typically, our typical schedule?
Yeah.
What would that?
Usually it's the calendar year. So decision, so the grants are awarded in January and those are available for the year. I think that's the typical cycle. Though I think, Max, you even reported, I think in the retreat, on some invoices that were still coming in from the previous grant cycle back to 2018, 2019, that were still trickling in. So there might still be some sort of wrapping up activities that may happen. But I think in general, we try to scope these as 1 year, projects that start and finish within a year.
How do potential recipients, or I should say applicants, how is this publicized? How does anyone even know that if they have a cool idea, that there is even a grant to be had?
Well, last year, so I have 1 year of experience with the Grants Committee and Sister Cities Commission, so I have only a little more experience than you both. But I think what we did last year, I can speak to, and we tried to widely publicize through all of the cities, regular channels on the website, social media, and we used our Sister Cities webpage and Facebook, and I think we have Facebook and maybe Twitter accounts for the Sister Cities program in Charlottesville. So we used all of those platforms. We all, as commission members individually, also cross-promoted the opportunity, so tried to get the word out through kind of our networks as well. And that was, I think we also, if I'm not mistaken, I see we have Brian Wheeler on the line. I'm not sure if he's tuned in right now, but I believe we did print. I'm trying to remember, there was some discussion around whether to print any flyers or anything at the public libraries. But I think in general, we rely mainly on electronic communications about the opportunity. Hi, Brian.
Hello. I don't recall doing any printing via the city. You might have done it through other mechanisms, but
I may be mistaking that with, or confusing that with, the sisters, or the Spanish-speaking Sister City outreach discussions. I remember you joining one of our meetings a few months back where we talked about that option. I was trying to remember if that was, I think you're right. I don't think it was for grants. I think it might have been for the Spanish-speaking Sister Cities effort.
and it could have been the collection of the ballots for the voting.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah.
But as you mentioned, certainly anything you needed to communicate, we would definitely leverage all those
Mhm.
channels. And new since the pandemic started, we have our TV program, Seville 360. and
Okay.
that's always an option for any of our boards or commissions to share information.
That's great. Yeah, your team I know was very helpful in last year in getting the word out through all the different channels. So I think that's, to answer your question, Adrienne, we'd work closely with Brian and his team to use all of those and then try to cross promote opportunities through sister cities platforms and our own networks.
Would we, if we wanted to do it, keep the cycle going as normal, even with everything being abnormal? I take it we're a little bit late, but would we get something out in the next month and then say applications, normally we would receive them in November, but this time we'll take them up to the end of the year, and it'll be like everything would be delayed by maybe by a month or two, but we could still request applications for potential grants. We could almost have a pandemic category and a non-pandemic category. I'm just sort of creatively thinking, but like if your grant idea is specifically geared to something that does not involve travel, Amanda, as you seem to be going in this direction, that does not involve X, Y, Z, fill these things out. If your grant request is more traditional, know that it may or may not fly, but if it flew, it would be further into 2021 at least. I mean, I guess if we figured out what all the parameters needed to be, is it still viable that we could hold a grants cycle now, like as if nothing had changed?
I think so. I think, Adrienne, I agree with that. I think we are a little delayed in sort of starting the conversation. This discussion happened in September last year with the grants committee and kind of kicked off the process and planning in October, and then launched, I think, the announcements in early November. So we're not too off track, but I think require, I think allowing for a little bit of adjustment to the timeline, maybe with grant applications coming in, early in the new year, maybe would be more realistic. And then we try to do review and decision making by, in January and early February. That might be a little more realistic of a timeline. And then I think we would want to really encourage applicants to consider some non-traditional or more virtual types of projects during this pandemic period to still foster this. I think the goals are still the same. We want to create those connections with the sister cities and foster ongoing relationships. I think we could see what the community comes back with in terms of ideas.
I think it could be a strangely fertile time, because the carrying out different kinds of ideas would likely be much less expensive than usual if they're not involving the traditional modes. And then some of the creativity born of this time, I would almost hate to, part of me thought, well, do we just simply skip this year because it's a very strange and unruly year? But another part of me says, don't skip it, take advantage and see what it yields.
Okay, we are now actually about halfway through our allotted time, if not a little bit over half. Should we take a quick look? I'm looking at our committee goals from last year, and I don't know if we need to change them a lot. Do we want to look back at those? Because I think it makes sense to move forward with a grant program. And if that is the case, we need to decide on our deadlines. It looks, if we go with the same model as last year, and decide if we want to adjust the amount awarded or, the cap. And maybe we should take a look back at our previous year's goals. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I began already inputting for 2020 if we wanted to keep the kind of the adapt what we already
Oh, yeah.
had
okay.
done,
I'm there.
prepare the 2020-21 grant award cycle modified for the COVID-19 context. So let's talk about that a little more. I think we're already in that discussion. Using this fall period to do that planning could make sense.
So it would be prepare for 2021 grant cycle instead of fall grant cycle, right? Are you looking at that too, Damon, what Amanda's doing with the new?
Yes,
ones?
I am. Yeah, I'm flipping back, and I was flipping back and forth, but now I'm on that document.
We could certainly revise the grant application by the end of the year, assuming it's not too complicated.
Yeah.
That would take some probably emailing back and forth between us to.
Yeah, but we unfortunately, I mean, if we email, it needs to be with 2 people or less, or it constitutes a meeting. I wonder if we can, well, is it allowed for us to each individually, and this is a question for Max, I think, are we allowed to individually review this document and make edits without emailing each other? Or does that constitute a meeting?
No, I think that would be fine. And I actually just attended a training last week that talked about emailing back and forth and what constitutes a meeting. And if there's some time between the emails, then it doesn't necessarily constitute a meeting. But I hate to quote you the time frame they listed. So they said 4 hours between correspondence. But Brian, if you have any more information as far as how long they should allow, if they all were to be talking about the same city business or the commission's business.
Yep, I think the legal guidance varies, and in general, you're just trying to avoid rapid fire reply all kind of communications. So even for the entire sister city commission, it's okay to email each other. But what you want to avoid is what would be the appearance of a public meeting electronically. If you
So
were
if
making
one
decisions and it's all happening quickly.
So if Amanda emails at us one day, like maybe we respond the next day and that kind of thing.
Yeah, be leisurely.
Got it.
Okay.
It would probably happen that way anyway.
Exactly.
And
okay.
Can we take initiative also under emailing one other person saying, hey, take a look at the Google Doc, I made some revisions, and then they leisurely respond the next day, or hey, take a look at this, I looked at the application for grants and I made some draft changes to address the new pandemic situation, take a look. And that could happen from me to Amanda over a couple days, then from Amanda
That's
to
no different than you picking up the phone and doing the same thing, telling somebody over the phone, hey, I edited that spreadsheet. That's not a public meeting if it's just between 2 people.
Okay. Because I mean, it helps that there's only 3 of us. We could just move things along, just slowly nudging them down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Do we want to go ahead and, I mean, we have 18 minutes. Do we want to try to go ahead and get some things down?
Yeah, I think so. I think what I am a little uncertain about is how the the award amounts should be set, and how that was handled last year.
Should we add the words up to $4,000?
Yeah.
Because
the-
I mean, maybe someone has a great idea for $4,000, but maybe, I mean, this
You
being a
could do
primarily
something.
virtual world right now, it might not cost hardly anything.
Right. Exactly. Now, the other uncertainty is around, so, you know, the financial picture for the commission looked different last year. We had had the $15,000 allocation from the previous year. We're now sort of operating on reserves. And I think based on our discussion at the retreat, my understanding is that once the current past grant cycle commitments are paid out, which will probably be later in 2021, given they all involve travel, we are, you know, I think when you subtract out what's been committed in grants already from the past year, the total budget of the commission is around the $30,000. And I don't, you know what other routine expenses will need to come out from the budget. So we're working on sort of a diminishing budget right now. I don't know if in terms of what the financial picture for next year is looking like, and any indication from, the council budget cycle. But it sounds like we might need to, I don't know if we could commit 20,000 again, I think is my question.
Well, and another question might be, should it be 3,000 instead of 4,000? Would that be debilitating to, I mean, obviously it would limit grant opportunities to some extent. We could make it a maximum of 3,000 and up to 5 grants, so 15,000 total. Or we could keep it 4,000 and reduce it by a grant to make it maybe 16,000 if we think that's an appropriate amount. Or if we think we're really concerned, we could make it 12,000 and just have kind of 3 grants out there if we maxed out at 4,000.
I wonder if we could just defer this until our November meeting and get
once we have a budget picture. I think maybe I think it would be good to consider, maybe we might want to take it down, like you said, Damon, to 16 or so, but keep it as something that we need to finalize. Yeah. Based on the financial committee and those discussions. But I'm not clear on what the actual budget available for grants is as we move into the next fiscal year or the next year for the commission.
I would be very interested in, I mean, something we definitely can do while we wait finalization on those dollar amounts. And it doesn't matter because applications wouldn't be due until January in any case. Well, it does matter because we need to say something in the publicity, but is working on the grant application. I think that's going to need some careful wording or tweaking probably.
So I just wanted to let you guys know during the Spanish speaking Sister Cities Committee meeting, they have decided to go ahead and put the request before council for the $15,000 allocation. So as you're considering everything, I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thanks, Max.
Right. So that really might is there a budgeting process the commission will go through? Is that coming up later on the agenda this evening to look at how we allocate the available funding? So, the 15,000 for the Spanish speaking sister city, and, how does that decision around what goes to grants get decided?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I'm trying to find your agenda, but I don't think so. It's not planned for today.
You mean here in this meeting, this October, the meeting we're in right now?
I think there's a finance committee, isn't there? Or maybe.
Yeah, it's they're called outreach and communications.
Oh, is that the?
That is what is
finance?
next. That's the final meeting of the day.
Yeah, I'm on that subcommittee and I wouldn't think that has anything to do with finance or budgeting. But I don't know the traditions.
Okay, I thought that there was a finance committee, but I may be mistaken about that. But Damon or Max, do you know how the budget gets set for the commission, or how those allocations are decided?
I don't, unfortunately. I've just been filling in for Keena, so I'm not familiar with that. I can
Okay.
always ask and be glad to get back with you. I will say that at your retreat, there was no mention of a finance committee either.
Okay.
When you guys started to, figure out who would serve where. So, but I can check on it.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so I think that is something we'll need to just put a pin in and come back to in terms of finalizing what the total grant amount is. Will there be an opportunity for a November meeting for the full commission? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So perhaps
the
this could be
dates
on
and
the agenda.
everything, right?
Okay.
it's the 17th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So is it that just the overall commission votes on the budgetary allocations? Is that the way, Max, do you recall if it's been done that way in the past?
Yeah, so that's the part I'm unfamiliar with. I've filled in for Keena a few times, so I'm not sure of all the ins and outs. I'm sorry,
Okay.
but I'd be glad to get an answer for you. Yep.
All right, that sounds good. Thanks.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. I tell you what, I have to compliment Max, you and Brian and all the people who work on these. I think you must live in your office.
Well, thank you.
The workday
real.
never ends. Yeah.
God bless you. I guess we have 10 more minutes.
Yep. So I've included, so assuming we move forward with the grant cycle for 2021 modified, we would then set a goal for 2021 of the grant review assistance and oversight, maybe kind of carrying forward that goal, adjusting that a little bit, but it seems like that still stands. Don't see major. I suggested by March, since this involves also meeting with all the grant recipients, communicating with them and so forth, which, a letter can go out, but then there's usually some more individualized follow-up that the grants committee is responsible for. So we could say by the end of February or early March. I don't know if you have a view on this, but I just want to try to be realistic also.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So by March, sometime in March, mid-March, or worst case scenario, I suppose end of March, the grant awardees would be notified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if the applications deadline were in January, we should make it. We will have to meet as a committee to review the applications and make decisions about what to put forward to the full commission. Then we'll need to time that with the commission meeting in the January or February timeframe. So we will make a report to the commission to seek approval for the grant committee's recommendations around awards. So we would present a report and recommendations at that point. So I think that's why I'm thinking March might make sense, just because given we don't know quite, will we be meeting kind of routinely monthly at that point, but this will require full commission approval to make those awards.
Do we?
Sorry, go ahead, Adrienne.
I was just curious back to that grant application. I know I seem obsessed, but I was just thinking, since we're meeting in 3 weeks, I guess, or yeah, just barely 3 weeks, do we want to try to slowly, I would be willing to kick this off, look at that grant application, which I assume is easily found online, and make little adjustments bit by bit across the three of us leisurely. And
yes,
so that we could present something November 17th, we can say, hey, even give it to the members, the commissioners, even a day or two, a couple days in advance, and say, this is what we're proposing, the new application for our next cycle that we do want to run. And we would get into more detail, obviously, at the meeting.
That sounds great. Thanks, Adrian.
I agree. I think that sounds like a great plan, Adrian. And I think it should be in the grants folder, but I will look for that and email it to the three of us for review.
Okay. And then just a question, if this does go according to plan, I suppose the most important thing is getting the word out. So what do we envision, like, do we need to wait till November 17th to get buy-in from the whole commission? And then on November 18th, be ready to get something out in these different, the press release, the Facebook, that stuff?
I would say we probably would want to give ourselves a bit more time. One possibility would be to promote the opportunity at the end of November or early December before we get into the holidays, but with a deadline of maybe January 15th or something. So we're giving at least a month, but recognizing with the holidays cutting into that, we may want to stretch that out to 5 or 6 weeks. So I think what we did last year was, at the time we had the application and kind of the cover announcement drafted. We shared it with Brian and his team, and developed, basically just a strategy around dissemination and a timeline for that. So we could, I think, together, in advance of the 17th meeting, review the application and also maybe look at this calendar and kind of come up with a proposed timeline that we could share with the commission, and then connect with Brian about promotion following that meeting, once we have the kind of okay of the commission to move forward with the plan. We do need to be clear at that point, I think, about what the total award amounts can be. And so that's kind of going to be a pending item too, I think, to finalize those materials.
Okay. Is there, Amanda, when you consider sending us the application, are there other ways that we can look at what was said about last year's, not so much how it was publicized? I know we've talked about the different channels, but like, what were the words?
The message.
Right.
Yes, I think I can find the announcement that was published on the city website. We can find that, and then there's the separate application, which is a link, a separate document. Yeah. But I think it's probably the announcement that we'll want to edit more to sort of modify, adapt to the COVID context. We can look at the application as well and see if there's some other types of questions we'd want to ask, to spark kind of some different types of exchange opportunities, so that aren't dependent on travel. So I think we'll want to look at both pieces.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay, we're about out of time.
I have one thing I want to let you all know. It was clarified to us today that there is an additional potential allotment of time each month that subcommittees can meet outside of what is the standard 3 hours. So the commission as a whole has 3 hours to meet, but then there are 6 other subcommittee time slots that any subcommittee in the Charlottesville, list of groups can request. So we currently do have a request, I guess. Brian has signed us up for one in case we should need it. We're thankful for that. But there's the potential that we could meet in November at some point as a committee outside of the scheduled commission meeting. So I just wanted to mention that to you, and that this is an option into the future. So if we find that we're in need of a more like a quarterly meeting, we in the education committee talked about potentially having quarterly meetings. Now our group, there are times when we're going to need to meet and, we're determining these grants. So we may want to put in our request pretty early so we make sure that we have those times.
It seems like we might want to have one meeting before the end of the year as part of the preparation cycle. Maybe I think we could probably iterate via email to prepare for the 17th meeting, but then after the 17th, we might want to come together to finalize plans. Potentially, we may need that. And then certainly we'll need a meeting in early 2021 once the grants come in to do a review. And that was an hour and a half long session last year.
Okay. We should probably at our upcoming regular meeting really try to decide amongst ourselves on dates for these subcommittee meetings, because we definitely need them. And I'm sure other subcommittees also will need them, but we don't want to wait and lose one of the 6 spots that we can get.
How do we, who do we make that request of, or how does that happen?
Brian, do we make it to you?
You could just let me know.
Max, okay, great,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay.
Should we
great.
let Brian know right now? We're talking about like.
Brian
that
has
part of-
already marked one of the November meetings for us, but we know that we want December and January. Is that correct?
Kate did mention December, but I'd have to go back through my emails to see if she finalized the date, because there was a potential date, but she thought about moving it given the holiday. So
I think so. We were planning on the regular meeting date to be, I believe, on the 15th of December.
Yes, you mean the whole commission? Is that what you mean?
Yes, sorry, commission. Yeah. Because it would have been, I think, the 22nd, which we don't want, since that's a week of Christmas.
Okay. Well, perhaps we'd want to at least get the late, kind of a late January meeting if we stick to the timeline we discussed, with applications coming in by January 15. So we maybe we'd have a review meeting in late January.
Max, do we need to make that request to you in an email, or is this meeting adequate?
I think this is adequate.
Are we official only when we tell you the exact date, or can you go ahead and reserve one of those spots for us?
I believe we can go ahead and reserve a spot.
All right. You guys
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, well, I think we're out of time. It looks like our friends from the next committee are joining. Just to wrap up, it looks like we've made some decisions around a modified grant cycle. I carried forward, if there's no objection, the goal around the travel scholarship. And perhaps we'd want to still kind of bring that piece of work to completion over the next year. If there's no objection to that, I would suggest we at least review that and make some decision about how to move that forward, and that we'll need to take to the full commission ultimately. And I can also share with you the work that the grants committee had done previously on that.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much, Adrian, Damon, and Max and Brian. Thank you. Hope everyone has a good evening and the rest of the meeting goes well.
Definitely.
Thank
All
you.
right,
You
Amanda.
too.
All right, take
See you
care.
later.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you.
So let's see, on our next meeting here, which is communications and outreach, it's Adrian, Stella, and Michael. Is there anyone else on this subcommittee?
Let me check just a second. Doesn't look like it, no.
Okay. Do you all need me for any reason? I'm not on the committee. But are you in good shape?
I believe so. Is Michael there?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to say good night to you all as well. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And I'm sure we'll be in touch. We'll at least see each other at the November 19th meeting. So good night, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Damon.
Bye.
Oh,
Hello.
there's Michael.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
So outreach is Twitter, website, Facebook, etc.
I guess.
Okay. Do we know if we got that email account? The credentials to that email account?
I do remember an email coming through from Terry actually shortly after your last meeting with the
Okay.
credentials. And I've kind of chatted with Keena about that because it may be something that we should either help to maintain or have access to. I don't believe we even did before now. And so we haven't had much time to really chat about that, but just so that you're aware.
Okay. Would the same thing be the case with the website credentials or?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So right now I have a copy of those. I haven't changed them yet, but when I do, is there a secure way I can send them over to you, Max?
Yeah, sure. I could share my email address with you.
Okay.
Yep. And just to be clear, we wouldn't manage the website in any way. It's just that we
Right.
need to have access.
Yeah, you need a copy just in case, we all win the lottery or something.
Right. That's it.
Could you clarify for me what, I think I'm a little bit out of what you're discussing. So the credentials for, I understand there must be an email that if someone's interested in Sister City, anything, they can send a message through that email and then the Sister City website. But how does that, once you have the credentials, what does that allow you to do, or what are we talking about?
So for the email account, it would allow you to log in as that email account and send mail as that email account. So send mail from the Sister Cities, I don't remember the exact email account address, but you could send stuff from there. For the website, their credentials allow you to log into Wix, which is where it's hosted, and edit the content of it, add content, delete content, etc.
Okay. And how does that typically work?
Being new, I don't know. My thought for goals this time around would be that we would set some sort of refresh cycle for, when, do we want to have new content monthly or every couple months? Do we want to, I know we did bios or introductions to each other. Do we want to put information about us up there? There was no information, I think, on last year's grant cycle. So there was some talk at our last meeting about possibly putting updates from last year's grant cycle up at least, and then information on any new grants or events that are happening. And then for the Twitter account, it's been pretty silent, but there were some tweets early on in the pandemic about, here's how some of our sister cities are reacting in the pandemic. Here's what life is like in Italy. Here's what life is like in France. And then there was some sort of generic, like with the new mayor at Besançon, they did a, congratulations email or tweet, but it's been pretty silent as well. And so we could choose to, amp it up a little bit more, announce grant competitions, or let it be mostly just a kind of a news outlet.
And there's like 4 things, right? The website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. how does every update have to go through only one person, or would we divvy it up, or do we have to get okays on things going out?
I kind of had those questions when I came on at our June meeting. And so I did not do any updates to the website yet because I didn't want to step on toes or anything, but it feels like it was mostly, either unilateral, like one person would just, putting an update up there because they knew about it from one of the meetings. But in other cases, like the grants award things, it was coordinated with the various other subcommittees to say, okay, we want to put this on the website. We want to send this out via a tweet or something. But I really think that that's up to us as to how we choose to govern it.
Max, do you know if are there any rules or regulations around how we handle putting things out on social media or on the website?
That is actually a good opportunity for Brian to chime in. I will tell you that some of these platforms our department wasn't exactly aware of and or didn't have access to. So if you remember the last meeting, everybody was trying to figure out how to log into the email. And it sounded like a previous employee of the city of Charlottesville still had those credentials and was the one who shared them with us. So Brian, there you are. Any rules they should be following?
Boy. So this is a gray area in that when I arrived about 2.5 years ago, there was maybe one other board. It was the Tree Commission that had its own Facebook page. In general, stepping back from your specific setup right now, if you were being recreated from scratch, I'll use the Police Civilian Review Board as an example. That's a brand new body. We've assigned each member its own email address. It has a public email address, Police Civilian Review Board at charlottesville.gov. And that way, city staff have access all the time to the messages coming into the group. And if we get a FOIA request related to your work, we can easily access the records. Now, sister cities less likely to get a Freedom of Information Act request. However, all of the public business that you do as a member of a city council board or commission is subject to FOIA. And I'll give you one, example of something we have to keep in mind. On our Facebook page, we cannot delete any comments because of First Amendment issues. So those types of rules would be in place and we would oversee if this was being done as a city communications effort. Again, this is a little bit of a gray area. There aren't too many boards and commissions that want to be out there maintaining their own websites, doing their own social media. We have a new website platform that we just implemented in April. So, from my perspective, as somebody responsible for the website, I'd rather you have a robust page on the city's website. And we have then an audience that we can draw attention to and bring people to that site. Now, our old website may not have been conducive and as attractive and mobile friendly as this commission wanted, and that's often why some people start driving down their own path because the toolkit that was available they didn't view as quality, or they were wanting to do their own thing and have access to it outside of city staff. So I probably said too much, but there's a little bit of background. Happy to answer any questions.
Is the current Sister Cities Commission website separate from the city's main platform?
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Here, I'll put a link in the chat.
I saw it earlier today, but I just didn't realize.
There are a few links back and forth to the city of Charlottesville's website. And at least one or two of them is now broken because the upgrade that the Charlottesville main city website went through.
Yep.
I wonder if what I was looking at, what was so there's a sister city pages presence on the city's website. And
There is a-
then you're
yep.
saying there's another website that's a sister city website?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that's unusual. I can't think of any other commission that has one.
Okay. Well, maybe one of our short-term goals for 2020 could be just to clear all this up.
Yep.
I'm not sure what that means, but
You know,
mean-
and you ought to, I don't know how that site has been used over the years. You know, if you've built up, in general, for things like this, if you've built up an audience who's used to going to that address, then you either want to redirect that, you know, back to the city, or you want to maintain it because you have such a big audience and people know where to find your information. So you sort of have to evaluate, is it serving your needs now to, you know, to have it separate, or is this a good time to rethink that? And I'm happy to work with the commission on thinking through some of those things.
And you say that we're kind of unique in that ours is like this, but it sounds like the rules are sort of hazy about whether it should be this way or could be this way in the future.
Well, you know, the rules about the social media, the way I've described that to other commissions who've come to me, I've said that, you know, a city employee would need to be an administrator or have administrative access to the social media account. We need to make sure that we're not deleting anything.
Mhm.
And as far as approval of messages, that's not something we've tried to, you know, enforce down to the commission level in general, because, you know, people are generally smart, and the kinds of topics you're talking about are not, you know, lending themselves to controversy. Trees and sister cities are pretty safe things for people to talk about.
For now, yeah.
I just
And
took a
then
look and
what
yeah.
are the capabilities for, what are the capabilities for us editing a site or a sub-site on the Charlottesville page? And how do we go about requesting that?
Great question. That would be new territory as well, because we've never had, you know, a non-employee
Right.
be given administrative rights on any of our pages. That
Right.
said, it's not impossible, and we could certainly, you know, if Michael, those are skills you've got, we could certainly create a user account that was tied to, it could be tied to a charlottesville.gov address that we create, or we could use your external address. But
Okay.
either way, I think we could create a user. And then for all of our employees, we have a new approach now with the current website, where content that they create, and Max runs into this obstacle. When she creates a new page or updates a page, there's a committee of website approvers who review changes to the website and then authorize those things to go out. So we could sort of give you a sandbox to create, you know, content and create drafts, and then we could, you know, push the button to make it public.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any current link between the city site right now having to do with sister cities and this pretty beautiful, extensive?
I think there is, and Max can check me on that, but I'm pretty sure when we built the Sister Cities commission page, which is basically just a description of the committee and who's on it, I think there is a link to your site.
There now, but I believe so. I'm almost certain. I remember visiting the site during your retreat.
Yep.
I'm not seeing there's one that goes to the main Sister Cities International nonprofit.
Maybe I'm
And
thinking
there's
about that.
one that there's individual like Wikipedia links that go to the 4 cities.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Oh, there it is, way down at the bottom. Visit our website.
Yep, way down at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there it is.
And again, that's the kind of feedback. If you build out that external website, you stick with that. You know, maybe your feedback to Max is, hey, Max, on the Sister City Commission page, can you draw more attention to that? You know, at the top of that page on the city's website. That's feedback we are welcome. We welcome.
And that .gov address, Brian, is for Sister Cities is a conversation that Keena and I have had. But then we started to think about all the different places that they would have to make changes to, and you know, didn't want to
Yeah.
cause too much trouble. So
No, you're right. And it's, you know, it does add work and licenses to the city's approach. The city attorney's office definitely favors, you know, making these commissions more standardized. But keep in mind, we have, you know, over 30 boards and commissions that we staff. So you can imagine creating user accounts for email for all of those boards and commissions is a lot of accounts. So we've been going slowly on that front, and the Civilian Review Board is because that's a high profile commission that's going to get a lot of activity. We wanted to start them off right.
Okay. And do we have an Instagram? Adrian, you mentioned that.
Yes,
at one
we
before
do. We
okay.
do, but that too hasn't been touched since March, it looks like. So maybe, I mean, I'm always one of those people that likes to get everything gathered and somehow kind of figured out. Maybe one of our short-term goals would just be to draw up what platforms we have, how we're using them, or how they've been used. What we need to think about, for example, this specific business of linking or not the two sites, the two websites that exist, the cities and then the other one, the independent one, call it. And maybe, you know, that's enough before, and what kind of, as you mentioned, Michael, scheduling do we want to consider as far as refreshing, and maybe just getting everything down that exists and what we know about it thus far and what we might want to think about for the future.
Okay.
And we learned in the last subcommittee meeting that that we can email documents, or we could work on a Google Doc and email one person to another person one at a time in a leisurely way, meaning let a day go by, don't have Brian was saying, you cannot have an onslaught of all the emails flying back and forth. It appears to be an electronic meeting when that happens. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
but we could, I could start a draft on Google Docs and then alert one of you. You can take a look, make revisions, alert the next person, and we could just have something to report at our November meeting.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, so I'm taking some notes to wordsmith so we can put them into the goals document.
Oh,
But
great.
so far, what I'm capturing here would be that, you know, kind of we're standardizing and normalizing the social media accounts, the web presence, getting all the credentials sorted out, making sure that the right people have them just in case. Generally updating content on the website, so at least fixing some broken links, potentially putting the older grants and updates up there and the newer grants and updates up there, and then create a governance structure around when we do updates or how frequently we do updates on the different platforms. And then we have to have a decision about, do we try to maintain a separate website, or do we try to pursue merging content onto the main Charlottesville website?
And
That
something
language.
else, something
go
else
ahead.
just to keep in mind, if you're, I can't remember, let me click on your link here, what domain you registered.
It's a
SeavilleSisterCities.org. So, you know, if you're attached to that brand, there's no reason you couldn't, if you don't mind paying for it and not having a website behind it, you can definitely set it up as a redirect
right.
to something on the city's website. So you
Yeah.
could still advertise, you know, your favorite link.
Right, and it would just deep link into the sister cities pages
Correct.
on the Charlottesville site. Yeah.
Yep. And it would be a different, you know, the site, the page we were just looking at on our website is similar for every board and commission. And what I'm suggesting is if you wanted to build out something more robust, we would create a different place on the website where you could do that. It wouldn't be tied to that, what we call the sort of clerks page that describes who you are.
Okay,
It would be separate within our site.
right. But have a different template, have different kind of look and feel.
It could, yes. Yep.
Just to make sure I'm following you, the, let's call it the independent website for the moment, Sister Cities independent website.
Yep.
It looks so full and lush and rich right now. Did I miss, were you saying that we could hold on to that? I mean, it seems like it would be a shame to start from zero, linking within the city website structure, building something there when something
Yeah.
exists so fully.
I think that's the question for you as a group. You know, if you like what you have, you won't be able to recreate that same sort of look within the city's template overall, because there are some constraints and guardrails on the template, and what you see across the top, you know, is going to be the same as the current city website, that menu structure. So you can't totally rebuild what you have. But I think a question for the group would be, if you like what you've got, are you prepared to maintain it, right? And can you make sure that we have access to it in case, you know, the last known person with the password leaves the community.
Right, right.
Yep.
And Michael, probably you said this word already in your notes that I trust you'll transfer over to that Google Doc, but consistency across the different platforms in terms of information, because I was searching for the Kate took our bios, right? Our photos and our bios. And I was like, okay, I'm going to find out where those are. And it took me a while, and they're only on the Facebook page. They're not on the city page.
Okay.
They're not on the Sister City Independent page. So you would think maybe that things like that would be all over eventually, or main pieces of information would be consistently appearing in the different platforms.
Yes, absolutely.
Sounds like a very worthy goal.
Yeah, and if we're meeting once a month, it might take us a whole year to do this. So.
Well, I learned from my last subcommittee meeting that if we were pressed, and I don't know that this group is right now, but there are some extra meeting slots that can be had for the different subcommittees if we needed more time on something.
Okay.
We would need to figure out if we did and then make that request of Brian.
Okay.
Of Max. Yep.
Oh, of Max.
Yep.
Okay.
But right now I've got Sister Cities slated for extra slots, November, December, and sounds like I heard interest in January as well. So rest assured, if you want to meet, we will try to make that happen.
Is the Google Drive where our notes are, is that under that same Sister Cities email account at Gmail, or is it something different? Is there a second email address?
That'd be a question for Max.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just not sure. And I was looking at the information that we were sent about your Gmail account, and I started to forward it to you. And then there's a note that says that it should be monitored by the co-chairs. So I'm
Okay.
wondering if I should, check run it past them before forwarding it on. So, but
sounds fine.
I believe it is a Google Drive. So I would think that these credentials would gain you access.
Okay.
Max, do you know, I tried to do what Amanda had done in our previous meeting where she pulled some copy from the old goals sheet and put it into the new goals sheet just so we
Mhm.
could make the little tweaks for our
Mhm.
new goals. And I have tried to do that for this subcommittee, and the new goal sheet won't take my won't allow me to cut and paste something in.
Hmm. Yeah, the previous committees have been able to. Let me just pull it up here.
Oh, request edit access. I guess I'd have to do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you needed some type of permission.
Yeah.
Ask owner to be an editor. Can I be an editor? I don't know who this is going to.
Probably Kate or Damon.
Oh, okay. Well, Michael, you may have to do that and drop it in. I just wanted to put last year's goals in just for us to look at so we could, either decide that we were going to abandon them or try to reprise any of them. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I'll have edit access to edit until one of them responds.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have access either. I just did the request edit access, so wherever
Yeah.
that goes off to, then yeah. Let's see.
Okay, well, that'll be one of our goals too, is to do our goals.
So we have what, 10 minutes left or so, a little bit less. Stella, let me share real quick here. So I'm gonna put what I have up here in the chat for goals. And then actually one more, which is update the goal sheet.
Right.
Are there other things that we want to tackle? Are there parts of this wording or elements of this that you'd like to update or modify?
I don't mind saying right now that I really don't want to move our content or develop a new site within the city parameters. I mean, we have something, it looks very beautiful in my opinion, and linking and doing the things Brian mentioned, that where a city representative has access and, can, has a certain authority and stuff, that's fine. But to start to reinvent the wheel seems like a waste of energy.
Yeah, I mean, it will definitely be a moderate amount of effort depending on how much content we want to port over, how difficult it is to negotiate the non-city employee getting access to push content to a subsite of the city's website. At least for this month, I mean, until we get back and have a full meeting, my feeling was I would fix some of the links, and then I'll go try and chase down the content on Facebook and see if it's in a format that I could at least copy and paste it into the website and not have it look horrible. But I didn't want to kind of really go much further than, oh, and get the credentials to max so that we're covered in case something happens. But I didn't want to tackle too much more before talking to the larger group.
So I would suggest that you make your third and fourth paragraphs here, actually paragraphs 1 and 2.
Okay,
And then,
so update the content and create the governance structure, and then
I think we can get rid of paragraph number 1 if we agree. Do we have the authority in this subcommittee to say we would like to keep the independent website? And of course, link it, bridge it, whatever we need to do, but have that be the website that we really use for our big sister city stuff?
we probably do have that authority. My feeling is that as a new member of this group is that I'd like to get at least a, yeah, that sounds fine, or no, that sounds like a bad idea from the whole team. But I'm fine with recommending that, you know, we stay where we are for right now, barring any, you know, legal or other issues that become a problem, and just fix up the site that we have, and then, you know, maybe revisit it next year, you know, if we decide that it's too difficult or there's some other reason for us to move.
Maybe this first paragraph is something like, recommend not to move content to the Charlottesville City website, but maintain or stay with the independent website, and then it can go straight to update content on the website and the create a governance structure. And then the second paragraph here, standardize and normalize, that could drop down because those are important items too. But that could follow all of the goals that concern a website.
Okay. And so for recommending a plan on the future of the website, I think maybe also include the social media accounts there. And maybe the plan is we keep all of them and we keep updating them, but I heard that we can't get rid of the Facebook one, or at least we can't delete comments on the Facebook one. But I don't know if some of them are more useful than others. I think that Twitter has like maybe 20 or 30 followers, so it's not, you know, you know, and the plan could be, well, we try and beef up the number of followers, try to get more people interested in following Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, that's a worthy long-term goal, is to increase our followers and make.
Yeah, usually if it keeps getting updated, after a while you will get more followers. I mean, now if it's not updated very often, it's also difficult to get them. And like, for what I know, Instagram works very, very well with young people, especially. So if we want to have like, every social media has like a different target. So if we want like more young people to be interested, it would be a good idea to update Instagram, especially like, I mean, they are all important in a different way, while Twitter is again different. It's just more like to share news. So yeah, I mean, if we start updating them, all of them, I think we will get more followers also if we want to.
Yep.
So Michael, these notes are wonderful, and it sounds like you'll shift them around a bit or rephrase them, and then they can be dropped. Once you get edit access, they can be dropped into that goals document.
Yep. And then Kate was able to send out a broadcast to us about here's the goals document and some other stuff. So that I guess there's some capability to at least do one-way communication from the chairs or co-chairs. Is that a fair, accurate description, Brian or Max?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Kate was sending us some emails this week and last week about, here's the notes from our last meeting, here's the a blank goals document. So it seems like there's at least an ability to broadcast information
Sure,
down. Okay.
that's not a problem.
Okay.
And
And so
again, I think
what I can do is I'll email Kate and just say, hey, our goals part is updated. Can you send it out when you're ready? And then she'll broadcast it out when everybody's got their
Well,
goals in there.
I think it's my understanding that these are sort of our documents on the Google Drive. And there is a goals document and
Yeah,
we,
that's what I'm talking about, that one.
yeah, so we can drop stuff into it. We can put our own goals onto that document.
Right. I'm saying I'm gonna when I get the edit access, I will do that. I'll put our goals in there with everybody else's, but then you won't necessarily know that that's happened unless you're going to go check it. And so she and Damon as the co-chairs can send out a note saying, hey, the goals document has been updated. And
yeah.
So were you guys thinking you'd like for me to move the link to your website on your city webpage so that it's just more prominent on that page? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, that would be nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it ever possible, Max, to ask for a sentence that says something like, for more detailed information on the Sister Cities Commission, see this page? Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's easy.
Who did that page? Was that you, Michael? Or
No, it was Patrick, I think.
like your predecessor?
Yeah.
Whoever was working on it before. I wonder how hard it is to. Can you tell already how hard or easy it is to add to it and stuff?
It's hosted on a site called Wix. I
that's
don't
Wix.
remember if that's Microsoft's or somebody else's, but it's one of these like anybody can host a website here type things. They have editing tools and drag and drop stuff. I haven't worked with that one in particular. My experience in the past for some of the others is for general updates, it works really well because you just type some text in and it shows up. But if you really want to tightly control the way that it looks, it can get really difficult. But if you have a fairly simple website, here's a news banner, here's some pictures, here's some couple of sub pages with articles, it's pretty simple.
Well, hopefully, since so much is already done, hopefully we could just drop things into kind of window slots or something on it. I don't know if that's not the right term, but
yeah,
there's so much there already. Hopefully there's an empty space that will accept input.
Yep.
Brian, can I just ask a crazy question of you? It has to do with communication.
Happens all the time.
I had this goofy idea. I'm just trying to get creative about things. And I thought about for outreach, for communication or publicizing our mission here. Is there ever any city material that goes out to people? I don't know if it's in the mail or something on the city website where we could say hello or use greetings on occasion in the language of our different sister cities. So one time the water bill comes out, this is a bad example, but you get your water bill and it says, here's your water bill for this month in French. And then with the English, obviously. And then it says,
Right.
Remember Charlottesville's sister city, Besançon, and that just simple, very simple things like that.
Mm-hmm. We do insert items in utility bills, as you've probably seen, and there's a schedule for that, and there's a cost. for us to provide the printed materials to the billing company, and then they insert. And it's roughly, $1,000 to $1,500 pop to put something in the utility bills. So that's something you could budget if you decided, the print route was the way you wanted to go. But to take your creative idea and think about our website or social media, I would say we're very interested in content. And if the commission wants to write up some sample post or a news flash that we can feature on the website that describes your work or describes one of our cities, absolutely, we would love to do that. And your social media audience may be smaller, but one way again we can help grow it is if you post something, but let us know, and then my social media team can rebroadcast it, on the city's channels, so that you start, drawing more attention to it on your platform. So we're open to all those ideas. My social media coordinator is named Lasheen Parks, and we would love to hear from you and get some ideas about what to put out there.
Okay.
That's great news. Yeah. Terrific.
All right. Should we be waiting for Kate to come back, or?
I honestly don't think she'll be returning.
Yeah, okay.
I
The-
would
the
not
agenda
hold
said
up
there
your
was a
dinner.
wrap up and adjournment, but.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was me trying to be formal.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I did see Kate and I had the feeling that she was signing off for the day. So
Okay. Anything else that we should try and do in the last, not 1 minute? Okay. All righty.
Thanks for your work.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Thank you.
have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Ciao.